Hello friends, and welcome to Knowledge by Nature. In today's video, I am going to be showing you the second volume of Sassafras Science. I do want to let you know that Sassafras Science sent me this material for an honest review. You guys, if you followed me before, know that for first grade, we used Sassafras Science, and so that is something that I purchased completely on my own. But they did send me volume 2, and I wanted to give a very thorough review on this and let you know what I'm thinking. Alright, so like I said, thanks again to Sassafras Science for sending us this. We absolutely love Sassafras Science. I bought volume 1 for our first grade year, and we actually took it much slower than I originally anticipated. Really, I think it's like suggested to do like 2 volumes, volume 1, volume 2 in 1 year. That's the way it's kind of broken out. But we really did take it very slowly. We just really enjoyed it. We really dug in and did a little bit more on every lesson. So we actually ended up spreading it out through the entire first grade year. For second grade, I do plan on getting 2 volumes completed, but there was no question as to what we would be using for our second grade year. I would have been purchasing this even if they hadn't have sent it to me, so just a disclaimer that they did send it to me, but this is what I would have been using anyways. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that I am a homeschool mom to an almost second grader. We love all things books, homeschool, reading aloud, and sharing our journey with you. And if that is something that you are interested in, I would love if you hit that subscribe button and join our team. If you are coming back to view our videos, thank you so much. It's always awesome to have you. I appreciate you returning. So I will definitely put down in the description our Sassafras Science that we did for volume 1. That way if you want to go back and review any of those, as well as you see some thumbnails here where we have already talked about Sassafras Science quite a few times. There really was no question, as I said in the beginning, of what we would be using for our second grade year. I asked her what she wanted to do, and she was like, Sassafras Science, like I had just asked like a really stupid question. So this is volume 2, it's anatomy. Volume 1 was zoology, and volume 3 is botany. And I'm really excited to get into the following volumes. You can actually just kind of pick up wherever, but they do suggest that you start in volume 1 and then go to volume 2. This is a really nice program. And I actually am going to end up kind of putting this together a little bit differently than I did for volume 1 as far as the way my logbook is going to look. So we will get into that a little bit later, and that's a whole nother video. So be sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you can see everything that I do a little bit different. I wanted to leave it as is in this video. So this is volume 2 anatomy. This is the spine. This is the chapter book that you read, and there are 18 chapters in this volume. There were 18 chapters in volume 1 also. You would usually split the chapters up into 2 days of reading. So they're kind of split up with, let me show you here. So we have like Breakfast at Cecil's. You can see the small little caption here of chapter 1. And then it should be broken out one more time here. Let's find it right here. Socrates and Aristotle. So that would be the second section of chapter 1. So it's really nice that you can easily break it out. This is a beautiful read aloud. We really enjoyed volume 1. It was so much fun. She loved following the twins, and I was really kind of surprised at the amount of information that we got with it. It really was truly a great program of covering what we needed to cover for first grade, and that was splitting it all out throughout the whole year. Volume 2 is anatomy, so let's go ahead and let's take a closer look at the contents. All right, so our chapter book starts out with volume 2 anatomy, and we have our table of contents. Chapter 1, adventures in anatomy. Chapter 2, Ethiopia, here we come. Chapter 3, catacombs. And so you can see what we're talking about here: the skull, legends and backbones, blocks and bones, jumping joints, breathe, just breathe, the voice box and the windpipe. Then we have the opera house, fine dining, where we talk about the brain and spine, exploring the senses, touch, sight, hearing, taste, all that fun stuff. Then we come over here to chapter 8, boiling blood, heart of gold, muscles. Chapter 10 is the digestion. 11 is the kidney and the bladders. 12, the reproduction, and I will get into this a little more thorough so you know, if you're interested, just what the reproduction section covers. Chapter 13 is the lymphatic system with germs. Chapter 14 is cells. Chapter 15, haywire hormones. Chapter 16, we have the skin. Chapter 17, hair and fingernails. And chapter 18 will be finishing it up. This is actually, you could get just this book and have a really, really nice curriculum. You could just read it and then kind of do your own extra to go along with it. Here we have a quick introduction of everybody that we're going to see throughout the book, and that's just really nice to have all of this, and it also has like some pronunciation if you need that. This is a continuation of the characters that we're going to meet throughout the book, and then we start the actual chapter book. Volume 1 was so fun. These twins are really, really sweet. They are originally not into science in Volume 1. They're not looking forward to spending their summer with their Uncle Cecil, but that quickly changes when he invents this amazing zip line where they can go from one place to the other. And they use their Link Lock app to discover and send information back to their Uncle Cecil. So this is the chapter book. Again, you could only get this and have a great, great program. But you might as well add the rest of it because honestly, it just makes it easier for your homeschool teacher. So let's look at that. 2 of the additional resources that you can get to go with your Sassafras Science is your teacher's guide. This is not a huge teacher's guide, so it's really nice. Like, we liked to go outside and kind of school outside when the weather is nice. And so it is awesome to be able to just grab all of these things, and really this is the bulk of what we would need most of the time. So I appreciate that the teacher's guide is not this giant piece of material. So let's go ahead and look into this. So the table of contents for our teacher's guide is we have the introduction, we have the book list that you'll need, additional living books listed by chapter. That was one of the things I was so amazed with when I first bought this, is how detailed and easily broken out everything is. It just made it so easy. Then we have our microscope and dissection supplies, demonstration supplies listed by chapter, project and activity supplies listed by chapter, and then we have our guide to the characters, and then it breaks down all the chapters that we saw inside the chapter book. We'll come over here where you can see the rest of that here, chapter 15 to 18. Our appendix, which comes with lab report sheets, other worksheets, joint projects, and so all of this is a lot going to depend on your student. If you have an older student, you will probably delve into this a lot deeper than someone that has a younger student. And that is one thing that I really suggest, is use what you need out of it. As with any homeschool curriculum, this is no different. Pull out what you need to use and don't worry about what you don't need yet. Then we have the glossary, there's a human body project template, and then there's quizzes. This is something I didn't start using until the end of our first grade year because honestly I forgot about it being in the back of this book. So when I was talking earlier how I am going to take our logbook and make it a little bit different, I'm going to be incorporating this into our logbook, and again I'll explain what I'm going to kind of do later in a different video. We have our introduction and what each chapter contains. We have the living book spine, which we had here. We have different encyclopedia readings. So it says right here, best for grades K through 2. And I really appreciate that they kind of give you a recommendation based on your age group. So this is the Kingfisher First Encyclopedia of the Human Body, or best for 2nd grade through 4th grade, DK First Human Body Encyclopedia, or If it's even for older students, you've got the DK Eyewitness Human Body and the Kingfisher Science Encyclopedia. Again, if you have really little ones, you might not even have to purchase this. It could be that you can kind of Google some of these images. If you have older ones and you're wanting to do more thorough research, you're wanting to delve into it more, maybe look into getting one of these resources. Then we have the notebooking, which is the logbook information, which is this right here. Or they also have a lap book that you can purchase. They did send that to me to kind of look through. I think it would be really, really good for a kindergarten to first grade, possibly a second grader if they're really, really into like crafting, or even an older child if they're like super into crafting. But I really think that this logbook, unless they're first grade and under, I don't think we'll use every page out of the logbook, even again this year. For kindergarten, first, second grade, you might take a look at the lap book. You're going to be doing a little bit more as far as the homeschool teacher to kind of get that set up, where I think you could kind of just make this lap booky by using that. And that's what I'm going to do this year, is I'm going to kind of mesh the logbook to make it lap book, logbook combination sort of thing. But then we have our vocabulary words here, scientific demonstrations, multi-week project and activities. Then you even have memorization, copywork, dictation. I love that they're incorporating all of this. And I don't know if it says anything in here, but on our first one, there was so much geography added in with it too. So I feel like we got a really, really good geography lesson just by doing our Sassafras Science. Because again, you can break it up and do even more with it. And that's what we did. That's why Volume 1 took us the whole year, because we would kind of do a sidestep and look into the geography section of it also. And that's awesome because they're zip lining to all of these areas. And so you're kind of getting science and geography in one, in my opinion. Then we have a word about the SciDat logbook, and that's what this is over here. I'll show you that. And here we come to the book list. So we have our spine of Volume 2, our encyclopedia readings, and the resources that they recommend. And then here they start doing the living books listed by chapters. I'm going to zoom in on this part so that you can see the living books listed by chapter here. That way you can get an idea of maybe the extra ones you would want to find at the library, maybe get a hold on them ahead of time if you're looking into using Volume 2 anatomy. And so here we have the next. You can see there are a lot of living books that you can find and really use this as even more and extra resources for this. So here is all of from chapter 5 all the way to 18. Our next section here is microscope and dissection supplies. One thing that I do know is you can actually get on their website and buy the entire kit that you would need for doing the experiments for, I think it encompasses like Volume 1 and Volume 2, and then you can get a kit that's like Volume 3 and Volume 4. So if you are an older group for sure that you're wanting to do lots of experiments, you might look at that. We kind of pulled from the experiments as we went. Again, we took it slower. We did things differently on Volume 1. Here's everything you're looking for with that. And then we have demonstration supplies listed by chapter. I love this, that I don't have to go to the actual chapter and see what I need. I can go right here and know, okay, on chapter 3, I'm going to need 2 raw chicken bones, some gloves, 2 plastic bags, and vinegar. So I love this. It is obvious that this was a homeschool family that set this up, because this is insanely helpful and I love it immensely. And then on the back here is just finishing up with everything that you're going to need to finish up to chapter 18. Again, they've done a wonderful job of breaking this down into the chapters of what you're going to need and the supplies that you're going to need. So easy. You can flip to it, and it is in your chapter section also. But for those of you that might like to really like pre-plan, here you go. It's broken down. It's already ready for you. Love it. And here it is continuing on the back page. And then we get the same thing of introducing the characters that we are going to meet. This is in the teacher's manual, so it's just the same as we saw in the living spine. It is just also added here in the teacher's manual, where if they happen to be a student that maybe was reading this on their own, you would have kind of this information here also. All right, now we have the chapters where they start breaking it out. And again, this is set up, this is so open and go. They show you any experiments that you're going to need. There's none for chapter 1. They show you anything that you're going to need for project and activities. It says butcher paper. And then we have optional schedules for either 2 days a week or 5 days a week, or you can take one of these and kind of make a mixture of the two, which is what we did a lot of times. A lot of times we would do day 1, day 2, and then do experiments on a day 3. So we would split this up on 3 days. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So you can kind of use this at your discretion, what works best for you. But they do give you 2 examples to where if you don't want to think about it, there it is. It splits it up for you. Then you go over into the living book that you will need, any optional encyclopedia readings that you're going to need, any additional living books, and then this is all the information for your logbook. So this is all the information that you might be putting in your logbook all the way through here. And then we have, again, this is through our logbook. It's the anatomy sheets, the project sheets, the glossary, and then here is the scientific demonstration that you could do. And this is an observation walk, so this is a very simple one. And then after that, it follows the multi-week projects and activities. So here, this is where you could kind of split it up into maybe you want to do one activity on one day, maybe a different activity on the other day. And here it's I Spy. Play a game of I Spy to help the student work on their observation skills. So week 1 is very nice, easy, kind of introducing you into the program. Here is your copy work and dictation, and this is going to be set up the exact same way every single time. So again, we have chapter 2, experiment supplies, project supplies, 2-day option, 5-day option. Again, same thing every single time, which makes it really nice for teaching it. You know what to expect every single chapter, and it's really, really nice. So let's go ahead and flip to the back of this where there are more resources. So in the back of your teacher's guide, you have the appendix with lab sheet reports, microscope worksheets, so you can take these out and make copies, and then instructions for a joint project, which is one of the projects that you're going to see inside the curriculum at some point. We have our dissection report, a model of a neuron, pathway of the blood, a virus reproduction cycle, and then we come to the glossary where you would have all of your vocabulary words and things like that, as well as a human body project template. So we have the front part of the body, the back part of the body, and then all of the pieces that you can like cut out and attach to your body. And then in the very, very back is the quizzes. And like I said, halfway through the year, I had completely forgot about these because they were just in the back part of the book that I just didn't think. So what I'm actually going to end up doing for this book is I'm going to cut these out, and I am going to also de-spine this one. And you might have seen me do this before in one of my other videos where I actually cut the spine off and then I hole punch it and I make my own little book. And that's what I'm going to do with the logbook this year. And when that's all completed, I will show you that. But I want to incorporate the quizzes inside the logbook so that I don't forget it. So here's the logbook. This is your student's workbook, you could say. This is what they're going to use to put in all the information that they are learning from the chapter book. Or this is where you're going to help them put in all the information. If you are already swamped with different things of writing, you know, you may not want to put the additional writing on your student, but they could answer it verbally and you could write it for them. So here we go. We have this cute little Blaine and Tracy here that are the little twins. They're welcoming the student into the program. It shows the table of contents that we're going to have. So again, this is a simplified version because it is the student workbook. We have our anatomy notes observation pages. the back page of the observation page, and then we have this logbook, and this is the purpose of the system, so you would write that here, and then the facts about the system, they would write that here. So you could ask them what the facts are if they're too little and you really don't want them to have to write. Just write down what they said, and then that way you have a log of like what they actually said. All that information can be found here as far as what should be put in here. I will find that really quick. So all of this information can be found inside your teacher's guide. So if I go here to chapter 1, underneath the notebooking section, I can see that the purpose of the system is to be the framework for the body to protect the important organs and anchor the muscles. So you would put that there or summarize what they said, and you would just kind of check it against your book to see if that is indeed, if you needed to check it. Then we have facts about the system, and here they list the facts about the system. Now you're going to actually read the facts about the system inside your chapter during that reading period, but this also just summarizes it really quickly. Let's say you decide to read the chapters one day and you decide to come back in a different day and do this. You could totally do that. Again, you kind of modify it to be the way your schedule works best, and then you use the things that you need to use. Here it is, the geography around the world, the map. So if we go to this next page right here, in the logbook, we see a map. Every single time that you are working in the chapter, you're going to go in here and you're going to color the section of where the students are at, where Blaine and Tracy have been at. And so this is where I'm talking about, where you get so much geography in here and different areas that you can just study more about. Then you have facts about Ethiopia. Again, all these things are right here under around the map. So you're going to have the students locate Ethiopia on the map and label it, and then you're going to draw a star around Addis Ababa on the map. You're going to write the facts, which is right here. It's just wonderful. And then you have the skull that's going to be talked about right here. So again, the skull is part of you would write it in there, or they would write it in there, and then information that they learned. So they could kind of, while you're reading, if you want, you could go ahead and they could color the skull if they wanted to. Whatever page you might be working on, you could go ahead and give that to them, and they could kind of color if you have someone that wants to maybe be busy while you're reading your spine. And that is one thing I'm going to enjoy about kind of taking this apart, is that I can just give her the one page and she can kind of work on it, color on it, do whatever she wants to do while we're reading our chapter section inside the spine. So here's the logbook. As you can see, you just kind of go through here. You have these notes, and this is where if you're not going to do the projects, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about doing these project sections. And that was something I felt like, because I didn't do some of the projects last volume, that I felt like my logbook wasn't complete. But if I take this apart and I just don't do the project for this page, I can take that page out and my crazy self can be like, oh, it's okay, there's no empty sheet there. It just kind of drives me crazy when there's an empty sheet. And so if you do it, it's here, but if you don't need it, it's okay. Rip it out if it drives you crazy, and just realize it's okay to do that. And again, it's following the same thing. You're going to have a purpose of the system, a fact about the systems, then you have the map for the next chapter, and then let's go to the very back. In the very back section of the student workbook, we have the anatomy vocabulary cards. Again, these are things that they could like color or do whatever you wanted to with while you're reading. We have all of these. And so that is all that is in the back of the student workbook, is just these anatomy vocabulary cards. And just so you know, the volume 1 and volume 2 is really kind of considered your first grade year or your first year. Whatever year you're going to use it, you can do volume 1 and volume 2 right off the bat if you wanted to, no matter what level you're on. We didn't do 2 volumes the first year simply because she loves animals, and so we really broke this out a lot. But I foresee us doing 2 volumes this year, possibly more. It just depends, because since I created my new looping schedule, I feel like I'm able to accomplish a lot more also to make sure everything's getting done as I want it to. But I suspect that we will at least be doing volume 2 and volume 3 this year. Okay, I did want to go over what the reproductive system was going to be covering in this, just in case anybody was interested into how deep it actually got. So what it goes through is we've got chapter 12, and it's actually broken into 2 parts here. Part 1 is the reproduction realized, and part 2 is the body's blueprints. So there's really only half of the chapter that talks about reproduction. And when I read the chapter on this, it was a female that comes into the doctor's office and she's having tummy issues and it's painful and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her, and that is where they figure out that she is pregnant. So it does talk about how the male have the sperm and the females have eggs, and that those combine to make this zygote that goes into the uterus. We have this image right here that they're going to see, but besides that, they don't go into the specific body part of the male or the female. There's not any images of it except for this baby image here in the womb. So as far as that goes, you could even kind of skip over this chapter if you felt uncomfortable, depending on how old your child is or how much you want them to know. But it didn't go into an insane amount of detail. And then, like I said, the rest of the chapter actually just goes over the DNA that would be involved in our bodies. So I did want to cover that just in case anybody was interested about knowing what that would be exactly, so that you could get an idea for doing this for your student. All right, so I think that wraps up everything for Volume 2, Sassafras Science Anatomy. If you have any questions or comments about this, please put it down in the description. Thank you so much, Elemental Science, for sending this to us to review. And it's another wonderful read aloud program that works very, very well in our homeschool. And we thoroughly enjoyed it for Volume 1, and I anticipate that we will enjoy it going forward too. So again, if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!